Hello YouTube and welcome back to the nation of free to play. I'm Mr. Moonstart and today we're gonna take a look at the best 5-star characters in Genshin Impact. To be more precise, we're gonna make a 5-star tier list on who to pull at C0 if you're F2P. We're not gonna look at constellations, we're not gonna look at limited 5-star weapons, we're only gonna look at the characters and what they do at C0 for your account. So let's get going right away. We have the following tiers. First of all, the standard characters. We're not gonna spend too much time on them because nobody should pull for standard characters. We have the don't pull for matter. We have kinda niche. We have need more investment than others. We have the good tier, the great tier, and the game changers tier. I didn't want to include a must pull category because in my opinion there is no such a thing as a must pull in Genshin. Yes, even in 5.1 there's not. But there are some characters that really help you get through the game faster and help you clear Abyss and Imaginary Theater way easier than without them. Also, just as a disclaimer, of course you can pull for who you want, and if you like a character that I rate kinda low, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad and they can really work well on your account, but this is a general meta-based tier list on who will help you the most and who is kinda niche or requires more investment than other characters. Let's get going right away. We're not gonna rate the travelers because, well, everyone has them, we're not gonna pull for them. And then we start with Jean. Jean is a standard character, so you shouldn't pull for her, but if you get her, she's definitely worth building, especially if you have Arena or you just need a strong healer. You can also put 4-piece Vivi on her, so she shreds some resistance. So she's definitely one of the better standard characters to lose to. Next up we have Mona, also a standard character. I would put her below Jean, especially at C0, but you can make her work as well. Diluc, personally I have Diluc at C0 and at level 20. I never really built him. I'd rather use my Gaming, to be honest, it's more fun. I'm not the biggest Claymore fan, so I would put him towards the end of the standard characters. Next up we have Keqing. Keqing I selected for the free 5-star selector in the anniversary gift because she was the only one I was missing, so by now I have all the standard characters thanks to my great 50/50 luck. You should know I also only have 7 limited characters, but I have all standard characters, so yeah. Keqing is good DPS in aggro teams, so I would still put it below Jean but above Mona. Next up we have Chi-Chi. Next up, okay, we have the first limited character and also the first Archon, Venti. The thing with Venti is when he released he was one of the strongest characters in the game, if not the strongest, because of his grouping ability. The problem right now is that in Abyss especially, we hardly get any groupable opponents, which means Venti kinda becomes useless. You can still put 4-piece Vivi on him and shred some elemental resistance, but you can also do that with any Enmo character and he doesn't really stand out. So unless there are like flaws that favor his grouping abilities, he's not really of much use. I personally would put him in Don't Pull for Matter, at least of right now. But that doesn't mean he's bad, it just means that the game, as it is right now, is not really meant for him. As of right now, I wouldn't necessarily pull for Venti. The same applies to Klee. Even though she's so adorable and cute, and I really like her character, she's not the strongest pyro DPS, and I don't see that changing as of right now. She's also a very early character, and especially pyro DPSs got stronger and stronger over time, so I wouldn't pull Klee for meta. Next up we have Tartaglia, and he is, up to this day, even a very strong option. He's a Hydro DPS, and International with Kazuo Bennett Jungling is still one of the meta teams in Abyss, so he is definitely good. However, he needs quite a bit of investment. He can be a top tier DPS, but you really have to be ready to invest a lot of resources, a lot of resin in him until he really starts to shine. What I mean by that is, like, by now there are other Hydro DPS in the game who do as much damage or even more damage at lower investment. You get there faster to this peak damage than you do with Child. He's not a bad pull, but be ready to spend quite some time and energy on him. Next up we have Zhongli, the Geo Archon. He is still a top tier support. Like, his unbreakable shield is super strong, super comfortable, and it's just a luxury to play with him, especially in Abyss. You don't have to worry about dodging. I do not have him yet. If I have enough Primos at the time he reruns, I'll probably go for him. But that also shows me like he is, in my opinion, great. He's not a game changer because I've been playing the game for almost 2 years without Zhongli and I'm doing fine. Like, of course, it would be way easier and nicer with him instead of other shielders, but he's not like a must-have character. But if you really have some Primos to spare, he's definitely a good option, and I don't see him being power crept in the way that there's a stronger shield. I mean, shield doesn't get stronger than Unbreakable, right? So next up we have Albedo. Albedo is Geo, early Geo, not as broken as some recent characters. He kind of was power crept by Kiori. I wouldn't necessarily pull for Albedo, but he's also not like terrible in what he does, but he's definitely kind of niche. He's like on the edge of being down here with Klee and Venti, but I'd put him in kind of niche still because he's not bad at what he does. It's just like, do you really need it? Probably not. Next up we have Ganyu. I mean, let's just assume you can pull for her at some point because her last rerun been quite a while. So I would put Ganyu in the same tier as Child. Like, she can be very good. She used to be like top meta DPS with Venti in like Freeze. But right now, Cryo is not really in the best spot, and until that changes, I would not necessarily spend my Primos on Ganyu for the meta. But she can be very good, her charge shots can be very strong, and it's similar to Child. She needs quite a bit of investment, but then she can do good damage. So if you really like her, you can. I would put her below Child, however. Next up we have Zhao. Zhao is still a strong DPS. You can argue whether he's stronger or weaker than Wanderer. I think it just depends on what kind of playstyle you like. If you like plunging, well then you know who to get. I would put Zhao between Child and Ganyu. Again, like, Vermilion is not really the most efficient domain to farm resin wise, so if you really want to main him, yes, go ahead, but be ready to really invest a lot of time and resin until he does good damage. Next up we have Hu Tao. Hu Tao was my first 5-star I ever got, and I play her still to this day. I think she's still very strong, but as I said, Pyro DPSs, they're kind of getting stronger per release, so she's not a game changer. She's also not quite great, but she's still very good. She can do a lot of damage. Maybe I'm a bit biased putting her up here, but if you like her, why not? We have Eula next. Eula, I think if you want a nuke, she's still one of the best options in the game, ironically, but I wouldn't really recommend her. She's also pretty niche, her being like physical, and that's not really a thing at the moment. I would put her next to Albedo and kind of niche. I would probably skip her. Next up we have Kazuha, and Kazuha is, I won't say must pull, but like every account will benefit from Kazuha. He is the first game changer in my opinion, and he's still up there even now in 5.1. Yes, even though Xilonen just released, and we'll get to her later. But Kazuha's grouping is amazing, it's comfortable, he can buff your team, you can build him on 4-piece Vivi and just slap a lot of EM on him and you're good to go. He's definitely one of the best characters to get, especially early on, and if you have the chance to get him, I would recommend doing so. Next up we have Ayaka. Ayaka is the third character I have of these. I do have Hu Tao, I do have Kazuha, and I do have Ayaka. I do not regret pulling her. I still think she's the strongest cryo DPS in the game as of right now, sorry Risley. But I don't end up playing her too often, especially because, well, Cryo is just not in the best spot right now, and it doesn't look like it's changing, but she's very strong, and she's also very fun for exploring. The thing with DPSs is there are so many, so you can't really go wrong if you get one of the recent ones, especially. I would say Ayaka is still good to this day. Let's put her next to Hu Tao. Next up, we have Yoimiya. Now, I do not have Yoimiya. I'm saving for her for like almost a year, I think, by now. So I do have a lot of pulls lined up, and 180 of them are reserved for her. I want to guarantee her whenever she reruns. Does it mean she's the strongest character in the game? No. And maybe I'm a bit biased because I really like her character and I really want her. And my Amber has a 200 CV build right now. even though she's level 25. If you're wondering why, well, now you know. She's not bad, and I think her playstyle is really fun, but she requires quite a lot of investment to hit as hard as other characters, and she's kind of limited in being like single target. That is one of the things, like I'm saying, like you can still pull for characters you like, even though they're not top meta. Yoimiya being one of them, but I really like her, so I'm definitely gonna get her next time she comes around. Next up we have Raiden. And Raiden I also am lucky enough to have, and she used to be my main for the longest time. So I would still say Raiden is great because she's so versatile. Like you can play her as one of the strongest electro DPSs in the game. You can play her as a sub DPS. You can play her as an energy battery. You can play her as a Hyper Bloom trigger if you build EM on her. So you have so many possibilities to build her and to put her in so many different team comps that I think she's still very, very good, and she's in the great tier for me. Next up we have Kokomi. Kokomi is definitely one of the best healers in the game, and especially if you have Nilo and you want to play Bloom, she's a very good option to have. She's a super strong healer, she has a very good Hydro application, but you don't need her to succeed in your account. We're not going to talk about Aloy. If you don't have her, well, you won't get her. If you have her, you know what I'm talking about. Next up we have Arataki Ito. He is a Geo DPS. Now we have Navia, who works a bit differently, yes, but it's kind of like a power creep to him. I think Ito is still good, but he's also kind of niche. I don't know where to put him. Like he requires more investment, and he's also kind of niche because he wants kind of mono Geo team. So let's put him here for now. Doesn't mean he's bad, it's just like Geo is not in the best spot right now, and there are like more broken recent Geo characters than Ito. Next up we have Shenhe. Never seen her before. So was she also like Aloy, like a one-time thing? Or I don't know. No, seriously, Shenhe is good. She's a very good cryo free support. It's not like you can pull her, but like if you could possibly, then I would put her in. She's kind of niche. Like she works very good as a free support build, but that's about what you can use her for. Then we have Yaemiko. Yaemiko is like similar to Fischl, 5-star version of Fischl, even though personally I just go for Fischl. But her off-field electro application is still good, so I put her in good. Don't expect like crazy numbers of her, but she can be useful in some team comps, I would say. Then we have Ayato. Hydro DPSs is similar like with Pyro DPSs. They just got stronger and stronger over time. But Ayato is similar to like Child, Yoimiya. He just needs a lot of investment, I would say. So let's put him like here next to Zhao. He can be good, but again, Vermilion and Echoes are not the most efficient domains to farm for unless you have both of them. He can still hit hard, but there are other characters who get there faster. Yelan. Yelan is one of the best supports in the game. I don't have her. I'd like to have her, but whenever she was around, I had other priorities or not enough primos. So I think she is a great option to have. She's not a must-have. Like she's not a game changer, but she's very strong and very fun to play, I believe, and also for exploration she's great. So a strong pull if you can get her. Tignari is also standard, so let's put him down here. I personally think he's the strongest standard character as of right now. Very strong Dendro DPS, and he's also easy to build. One of the better options to lose to. Then his best pal, Cyno. Personally, I wouldn't pull for Cyno, but he can be good in some spread aggravate or hyper bloom, quick bloom teams. I think he also needs quite a bit of investment though, and I would put him down here next to Ganyu. You can argue about the exact order. This is just like general. Maybe he's stronger than Ayato. He needs quite a bit of investment. I wouldn't recommend him as like one of the first options to pull for. Next up, Nilou. Nilou is kind of niche, yes, but she's also very good. And if you have her and you can play Bloom, you will have a very good option in most Abyss floors. So I think she's good. I think she's not just niche, she's very good. She's easy to build. You just slap a lot of HP on her. You don't care about crit. Get some EM as well and you're good to go. Next up, Nahida. Nahida is the Dendro Archon, and I think one of the, if not the strongest supports in the game. She is a game changer for me. I put her above Kazu actually. And yes, you don't need C1 or C2 or signature. You can put a 3-star weapon on her. Magic Guide will give you a lot of EM. Passive is also useful. Let's level her to 90, get her skill up, get her burst up. The normals you can ignore unless you want to put her as a DPS and play her on field. But Nahida will enable a lot of team comps and she will make basically any Dendro team way better. Except if you want to play like Burning, then she's not gonna shine. But whenever you play Hyper Bloom, Quick Bloom, Bloom, Aggravate, any of the above, or Burgeon, you kind of want to have Nahida in the team. So if you have the opportunity to get her, I would strongly recommend getting her, because Dendro is still very, very strong. If you can't clear in the Bliss Floor, just go for Hyper Bloom, put her on the team, and she's gonna do a lot of damage, and you'll probably be able to clear. Next up we have Wanderer, Scaramouche. Another Anemo DPS. He's like similar to Xiao. I think he needs a bit less of investment, but he also kind of needs a lot of investment because Desert Pavilion is also not the most efficient domain to farm. I was gonna put him in good first, but to be honest, he's kind of like similar to Xiao. So let's put them next to each other. Next up we have Alhaitham. Alhaitham, the Scribe. I don't have him, but I've played him on my girlfriend's account and he's fun and he's very strong, especially in Hyper Bloom. So he's definitely a good option to get. He's one of the better, if not best DPSs in the game. You can't really go wrong with him. However, if you really want to max him out, you kind of want Nahida and like an off-field Hydro applicator like Kokomi or Yelan or Xingqiu, and then Electro like Kuki or Raiden to trigger Hyper Bloom. If you have a team like that, he's gonna do crazy damage. It's a bit technical to play, but you get there. So yeah, he's a strong option to have in your account. Next we have Daya. Daya, standard, was pretty bad until recently. Now with like Niche and Mualani and her Pyro application, she got better. I'd still put her like between Mona and Diluc. Then we have Baiju, and Baiju really got very good recently. Like when he released, nobody was pulling for him too much, but he's a strong healer. He applies Dendro and he also offers some interruption resistance. So if you play Nuvi, for example, he's very strong. So I would definitely put him in good option, and I think he's more useful in a lot of teams than Kokomi, that's why he's up here. But again, like depending on what you need, like if you have Dendro DPSs, you might want like a Hydro healer instead, and vice versa. Like if you play Nuvi and you want like some interruption resistance and you didn't get Zhongli, he can work as well. Next up we have Linne. I do not have Linne and I don't like the playstyle at all. I tried Linne out, of course, but the charge attack thing without a shielder is not really my thing. Also, he's best in Mono Pyro, which is for me kind of niche. Yes, he can do a lot of damage, he can be very good, but you really should make sure that you like the playstyle and that you want to play Mono Pyro. If you do not want that, then I wouldn't recommend going for him, which is why I put him like here in kind of niche. He's good, but he's like not super versatile. Next up we have Neuvillette. And Neuvillette is, no questions asked, the strongest DPS in all of Genshin Impact, and I don't see that changing too soon. Having him on your account will be a game changer because he can basically solo Abyss Floors. The way they designed him, he's Hydro, best element in the game. His charge attacks work from afar, so you don't have to be like in the middle of the combat. He heals himself and the constant damage he puts out is insane. So I have Neuvillette on my account, and if I didn't have him, I don't know whether I could have 36 starred the Abyss so far. But he makes it way easier, and I would strongly recommend pulling him if you need a Hydro DPS or if you need any DPS, because he's in a different level than all the other ones. I usually don't put DPSs on the top tier, but to be honest, Neuvillette, you kind of have to. There is no way around it. So I would strongly recommend getting Neuvillette. It will make your life so much easier. You don't need a C1, you can just run a shielder, you don't need Zhongli, you don't need Baiju, you can also just build like Diona or Kirara or Layla, whatever you have, and it will be a game changer for you, I guarantee that. So I would strongly recommend getting Neuvillette. You could argue whether he's like stronger than Nahida or Kazuha, like these are all basically like all the same priority for me. All of them are very strong recommendations. Next up we have Wriothesley, same thing as Shenna, like one time only apparently. Cryo is just not in the best spot. Risley can be very good with Farina, Bennett Changling, or in Reverse Mult. I don't have him, and since I didn't get him when he released, you don't get him. He's good. He's definitely a very good DPS, but he's a normal DPS, not like Nubi. I think he's right next to Ayaka. I like Ayaka more, but that's just a matter of taste. So yeah. And next up we have Farina, and yeah, she is broken as well. Like Fontaine just got us very strong characters. She's definitely up here in game changers. Again, you can argue where. I don't think you have to have her. Like, I didn't get her on her release. I got her on a rerun, and since then I've been using her a lot. But yeah, she makes life way easier because of her insane damage buff you get from her. Up to 75% damage buff. Her Hydro application is good. She can heal, she can buff, depending what you want. And she also does good damage, so super versatile, makes basically every team better. I don't know, who should you prioritize? Nahida, Farina? Depending on who you want to play, you don't need any of them, but these four will make things so much easier. Next up we have Navia, and Navia's kind of like a power creep to Ito in my opinion, even though she likes different teams. I know her skill hits very hard. Ideally you play double Geo, double Pyro. Also her playstyle is kind of fun, but she's just another DPS, so to speak. So I put her like next to Tao. Very strong, but DPSs, there's so many in the game and you don't need all of them, so none of them are really necessary in my opinion. Next up we have Shan Yun, Cloud Retainer. She's kind of niche, yes, but she's also pretty good, so I would put her in good instead of niche because she enables a new playstyle for a lot of characters. You can play D-Look, very good for Gaming, very good for Zhao. Yeah, and you can just fool around and try like different plunge teams, plunge Navia, plunge Tao. She's a good healer. You can put 4-piece Vivi on her as well if you want. So overall, good option to have, not necessary. Then we have Kiori. I just made a video on her because she is on the banners right now. So if you want more info on that, check it out. I would say she is niche. She's not bad at all, but she's not gonna be super versatile. She's a Geo off-field sub DPS. Good for Ito, kinda okay for Navia, but not great. You really want people who use a construct, so I put it on here. Then we have the Knave Father Arlecchino, and Arlecchino is the second strongest DPS in the game. People argue who's better, Nuvi or Arlecchino. It's very close. No, it's not very close, but Arlecchino is super strong, but it's still not close. She does a lot of damage. If you need a pyro DPS, she's the strongest option right now. A great option to have. Next up we have Clorinde, and Clorinde is again recent DPS, which means strong DPS, but only DPS. Very good for spread aggravate or overload, fun to play. That's why she's up here in good between all the other ones like Navia, Clorinde, Hutao, Ayaka, Risley. You see a pattern here, like all these DPSs are good, but you don't need all of them. Then we have Siegewin. Siegewin is a very strong healer. She heals a lot. The thing is, personally, I don't really play a lot of healers. I only have Bennett, Jean, Cookie. That's about it. And I'm fine. I don't need a lot of healing usually. So that's why I don't necessarily recommend healers too much. And she's also kind of niche. I would put her here like between Shenhe and Eula. If you want a healer and you think she's cute, you can use her. She's not bad at all, but I don't think anybody needs her. Then we have Emily. Emily just came out in the last patch of Fontaine and really works very well with burning as an off-field DPS. She does good damage in burning teams. She's definitely good, and if you like her, you can pull for her, sure. I put her in good. And then we have Surfshark Girl, Mualani. I didn't get her. I wanted to try, but I wanted to guarantee other characters more than her. I will probably try to get Mualani on her rerun. She is very strong. Like, she nukes even more than Navia. It's a unique playstyle, you have to like it. She's very easy to build because she ascends with crit rate and she scales off HP. And with the 4-piece Obsidian Codex you get 40% crit rate on top. So you can really focus on getting her good crit damage substats. And she's just fun. Then we have Kinich. He's also super strong. Like, you can put him anywhere here. He's a very good DPS. Let's just put him next to Molani. Fun to play, strong, how, kinda annoying, that's what you need to know. And then we have our new Geo 5-star support, Xilonen. Just came out and immediately breaking the meta. No, not really. She's not breaking the meta, but she's one of the strongest characters we've gotten in quite some time. I would argue the strongest support since Farina, and that says something. Her elemental resistance shred of up to 3 elements at a time, plus her healing is amazing, and she can use the 4-piece Cinder City artifact set as a support to get you another 40% damage buff to the elements involved in the reaction. She's just crazy. I would put her up next to Kazuha in Game Changers. Time will prove whether she deserves a spot up there, but in my opinion, I think she is one of the best supports in the game, and she heals, so super versatile, fits in so many team comps. If you want her, I would really recommend going for her. She's also easy to build. You want defense mostly, maybe healing bonus, get some ER. You don't really care about crit stats, and if there's something we all have that are like shitty defense sense, right? And I think that's my final tier list for the 5 stars at Z0 from an F2P perspective. So let's sum things up. I think again you should pull for who you want to pull for, you should pull for who you like. I will pull for Yoimiya once she reruns, even though she's not top meta. But if you really need new characters, you just started out and you want to know who's the best character to get for your Primo gems, I think that's a fair Z0 based tier list, and I hope that helps you decide on who you should wish for in the future and who you might want to skip. That brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed watching, please leave a like or even subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out a lot. I'm just starting out. Also, let me know in the comments who you will pull for next and who you think is the strongest character in the game, who you regret pulling for. Let me know all of that down below. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!